Welcome in, everybody, to the Creed of Crypto podcast, where we provide immersive, essential, and evergreen strategies for the novice cryptocurrency investor. How you doing? I am one half of your host, Broke Boy Crypto. I have here with me, as always, Crypto Ewok. We have a lot to get into tonight. Bitcoin is pumping after a day of slight dumping. It has refused to get back towards that 20K level or go below it. Is the bear market over? Are we in the depression or denial phase? As you can see in the thumbnail tonight, that's what we are going to talk about. We're going to look at the psychology of a market cycle and a lot more. But let's welcome in my friend and co-host, Crypto Ewok. Ewok, how are you tonight?
I'm good. It's another green week, it looks like. Everything's been going well. Not too much FUD this week. So yeah, it's been good.
It's been a slow news week. Yeah, just overall, just not a ton of news. Now, that's going to change a little bit as far as the economic world as we head into next week as well. But before we do get into it, right now, Bitcoin actually started rallying pretty damn hardcore about an hour before we went on the air. It is now up to 23.2K. We were down about $1,000 from there over the last day or so. ETH is trading back up above 1,600 now, 1,630 at the moment. Hex pumping. I mean, hey, if you're not pumping right now, probably dump whatever that coin is. Hex is pumping about 13% on the day. It's at 2.7 cents. Just had a couple of really nice buys and a lot of other stuff going on as well. New layer one, Aptos I saw is up like 50% today. A lot of crazy stuff. So we are going to get into some of this price action. If this is your first time watching, we would appreciate it if you like the damn video, subscribe as well. We very much appreciate it. My name is Broke Boy Crypto. I have a YouTube channel that's based on basically living a minimalist mindset, or lifestyle, I should say, to build wealth through cryptocurrency. You can find me there. Ewok, let them know a little about you and where you can be found.
Yeah, I'm a Crypto Ewok on Twitter and Crypto Ewok 5555 on YouTube. So yeah, we appreciate the likes and the subscriptions on both channels.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I've basically, been I don't want to say a Richard Hart Maxi, but he kind of stole my heart in 2018 and haven't looked back since now.
Hey, we got 3 weeks till Valentine's Day since he stole your heart. Are you guys exchanging gifts or anything like that? Or is there
Cupid's arrow didn't hit me, but
Okay.
We're good there.
Okay. Well, that's good. That's good to know anyway. Ewok, always on the ball, has our Bitcoin chart up for us already, so we can take a look at that. Now, here's what we're going to talk about here. So Ewok and I, this is going to make for good television, okay? And of course, if you have any comments, questions, or whatever in the chat tonight, go ahead and hit us up. We'll definitely get to them at some point. But Ewok and I are on different planes at this point. So for a long time throughout the bear market, we were pretty much in agreement at thinking that we would get a low of a low teens Bitcoin, maybe 12K or something like that. Ewok has kind of been thinking 10 or 11K or something. I mean, kind of splitting hairs at that point. Both of us thought that the new lows would come in November after the initial lows in June for BTC. So far, we were dead on about that. 15.3K or so has been the low in this crypto bear market for Bitcoin. Of course, the FTX garbage and SBF and all that stuff back in November, the sky was falling. Then we had been in agreement that we'd see even further, maybe new lows here in January. That has not happened. It is pretty much guaranteed not to happen with 1 week here left in the month. And I, for one, I'm no longer a team player. I've abandoned ship bear and turned pretty bullish, not just because of the recent price action, but also just because of time that we've been in this bear market, which been, well over a year at this point. Matter of fact, if you really want to market maybe from, May of 2021, the first of the double top, I mean, we're way out. I'm more akin to, probably call it November of 2021 would have been the start after that descent. But either way, I mean, we are at least 14 or so months out now into this bear market. And the sentiment is still majority bearish everywhere that I look. And it is narrowing. A couple of weeks ago, I would have told you 60-40 or 70-30. It looked bearish. We're getting more towards kind of like 55-45, maybe still 60-40. But I'm still seeing mainly bearish sentiment out there. Jim Cramer and everybody else, of course, just telling you to dump all your crypto and everything. But yeah, I think the bottom is in. I at this point I feel probably 90% confident of that. Of course, you could always be wrong, and I'm willing to ride, whatever direction we go. Ewok, I know you disagree, so let's get to the juicy stuff. Why do you disagree? You think at this point, and what are you kind of seeing here as we look at the Bitcoin chart?
Well, I don't see enough volume. I think there's something fishy going on with the markets. There's not enough positive sentiment to be sending it up to these prices. There's not enough buyers. There's not enough volume. I think it's a lot of wash trading by some bigger players who possibly want some exit liquidity. And I think that might be our catalyst down, I would say even 50% from here. And that would still get us into that price target that I was talking about earlier. So that's my theory. I think there's some bigger whales that need to unload, and they're doing some finagling and shady things going on with the markets. It's not hard to manipulate it, really not when you have exchanges that are, willing to play the game. So that's just that's my theory. I think there's a bigger fish out there that wants to sell a big bag. They're doing this on purpose, wash trading, whatever, to raise the price, to build some liquidity so that when they do sell, it's at a higher price, and there are some buy orders that are set now, hoping that it won't get through there on its way back down. Just my thought process here.
Now, something I would want to ask you then, because something I mentioned there too is at some point I want to also focus on time instead of just price. And with how far we are out, and I'll admit, and it's not because of like the person that created them or anything like that, but I am a big fan and think there's a lot of validity to Bob Lucas's 4-year cycles. I mean, they just have done a phenomenal job of playing out so far. And I know he basically pivoted and was largely thinking that the bottom was in back when we were last at 17K. I guess it would have been like the beginning of this year, probably. But I want to direct to you. I mean, like, so if we do take another 50% haircut, or hey, let's even just say at this point, let's just say like retouching the lows already, so getting to about 15K flat. I mean, what is your time frame here? Do you think this happens next month? Where do you think this happens, and when do you think the actual turnaround, if we aren't already in it, would start to happen?
So here's another thing too. We have never had that massive of a double top that is from April to November. So that's new. It doesn't have to play out this time the same way as it always has. I think especially with what's going on in the macro, it could take a while. It could take us until even May, June, until it truly finds another bottom and goes back down. I don't know, or it could play out a lot faster. It could happen in March. I don't think it'll happen in February. It's too quick, unless we see another, major downfall of another exchange, right, that actually really does lead to selling this time. We've talked about it before, and I don't think FTX had a whole lot to do with any of the downfall other than sentiment, because there wasn't a whole lot of selling. Now, we'll see how those court cases play out. We'll see how the Genesis thing plays out. There's still a lot of things to play out. Plus, you still have, May or June until the Gox coins come out. I think that's going to have an effect. I really do. It may be good for them too if the price does. What if the price is up at 25? Those people are going to dump. They're going to dump hard. So, I think I just think this whole thing could be very delayed. We had a bottom back back here, what was this? November, it was right around that 1 year point, and I think it's kind of a fake out from the top. So I could see us bouncing around up in here. I did draw another blue line of where I think there could be some more support. It's going to take a lot to break through that. If we get through that, then I would say my theory is pretty much shot.
I
25
that's what I was thinking about. Okay.
250, 25, 290, and around there.
Or not far off. I mean, that's 2,000
it's
away for Bitcoin, but
it's not. And there is some support in there, or resistance in there as well. Not a whole lot, but that's just my next target. If we bust through that, then I may have to change my mind. But I still think there's something really shady. There's just not a whole lot of volume like we saw when things were really ramping up and starting to rise the last time. It's very minuscule as to what it was back here when this run started. There was just a lot more excitement. You can see by the volume candles down here of what kind of got it going. And we're just not seeing that over here. It's not there. So I'm just not sold. And again, if everybody flips to being bullish, you could still be that contrarian and say, nope, I still think we're going down, and be right. So, we'll see. My theory, I think there's a big player that's manipulating it right now. And they want some exit liquidity. Who knows? It may be Grayscale.
Let me ask you this. So I want to challenge you on something you said there. So you said that this cycle has been different than last cycle, and like the double top was different and everything like that, and it doesn't mean everything the same is going to happen. How would you kind of navigate that in terms of why does Bitcoin have to go down, whatever it is, 85% again? So why do we have to go to 10, 11, 12K then? Because to me, it would kind of seem like there was a lot of people who thought, and not just a lot. I'm not talking about like the fair weather, just showed up for the bull market people. I mean, like actual crypto people that are involved in the market, even last November or 2 Novembers ago now in 2021, that when we were in the 60s for BTC, still had a thesis that by the spring or so, we could see 3-digit BTC. And I'm not talking about moon boys. I'm talking about like traders and stuff like that saw something like that even in the short term. So, one could argue that maybe we got stopped out early that time. So why do we have to necessarily go down 85% again? I mean, it's already been pretty far. I mean, 10 to 12K is not all that far off from 15K, especially 12K, obviously. But so I would challenge you on that. I guess, like, why, if it is different, I mean, do we have to go down 85% again? Because, as the returns for Bitcoin diminish as these cycles go on, which it's inevitably doing. I mean, it is doing that. We're about to go into our 5th Bitcoin cycle. If you're a Bitcoin maxi at this point, you're not going to make more money than people that are into altcoins that are good. You're just not going to. But yeah, so what do you think about that? Because to me, it would make sense that like the asset, as it gets up there in age, would start to kind of compress a little bit in terms of the tops and bottoms. So I don't know. What do you think about that?
Well, it just hasn't done that yet. I mean, we've done 85% dips on at least every cycle that there has been so far. And until it doesn't, I think that, would prove the theory of why will it do that? Well, it has every cycle. So that's not saying it's going to, not a guarantee, obviously, but they're usually pretty similar with retracements, with the amount that it pulls back in order to flush all the bad stuff out. And I think that's usually in crypto what it takes, at least for Bitcoin, is established as it's been. Now, you bring up a good point. The longer we get in these markets, I think the less volatile it could be. However, when you have all of that shady stuff going on, you still got to flush them out. You still got to get that cleared for a fresh slate in order to start the run back up. And that's just my theory. It'll do it until it doesn't.
Right.
So
Well, I definitely it's an interesting conversation. Yeah, I
yeah,
mean, there's a reason that I think most market participants are pretty split on this. I mean, it
right,
is getting closer though. I mean,
sure.
again, I think it's the price and the time. It's not just the fact that we've had
Well,
a couple of really good weeks here. It's also just that, at some point it's like with a lot of these things happening, and yeah, I agree with what you said, and we have talked about it with FTX. There might not have been tons and tons of actual sell pressure from FTX at that point or anything, but with the going back to the sentiment, because I love looking, and if you have the psychology of a market cycle there and would like to pull it up, I'll kind of transition us over here in a moment. But you know, if I lost my train of thought right there. So yeah, so all these events happening, Genesis, all these other platforms that are having issues and stuff like that. Sentiment wise, it just doesn't. I mean, the story can be whatever it is, and maybe they can actually do their own sell offs, but sentiment wise, I don't think people really care about almost anything that can happen in crypto at this point. It's just that if sentiment and panic selling during FTX was the majority of the selling, I just don't see if that carried us that low. I just can't see how, sentiment wise, again, we could have anything that would surpass that at this point, barring, dare I say, World War III or something like that. I just, can't see, some kind of black swan event to that level is what I think it would take. So, yeah, and not
well,
only that,
again,
go
we
ahead.
can't forget though that this is the first time that we've been in a very down macro environment at the
Mm-hmm.
same time as a Bitcoin or as the crypto cycle happens. You have to figure that in too. Does that delay it? What does it actually do? To the overall grand scheme of things, does it make it last a lot longer? And I guess it's yet to be seen because it's never happened yet. So we're still in uncharted territory, so to speak, until this whole recession kind of pulls through. So you gotta keep that in mind as well.
You're right about that. And yeah, I was going to make comments too about the macro stuff, but we are going to talk about FOMC being next week here in a moment. So let's actually look at the psychology of a market cycle here. So for those of you that have never seen it before, we have it up on the stream. But if you're listening to the podcast, you can find it with a quick Google search. It's the Wall Street cheat sheet. And I mean, to me, I can't see how we're in anything, and I try to, but I can't see how we're in anything other than that disbelief rally here at the end of the bear market. And the depression phase, obviously, to me, would be back in November. I'd say December too, around the holidays. I mean, people just weren't even really paying attention or anything to crypto, and gas fees were phenomenal, and I did many transactions over the week of Christmas. But yeah, I mean, if depression wasn't November, where is depression? I just, are you telling me depression is going to last 6 months? I
It
don't know.
might.
Yeah, it
I
might.
I don't think we're in this pullback. Maybe this one. And these aren't always completely accurate either. They just kind
Right.
of
Yeah. It's just a
spell
chart.
it out. It's just a chart. This could be, we could still be in this anger phase. With because I tell you what, if it does go back down another 50% from here, you are going to see depression.
Yeah.
No
Yeah.
doubt about it, right? So I mean, if this is the uptrend that we're on out of the anger phase, and it does pull back down that much further and gets into even the 15, 10, 12, whatever area, I think that is where we would be. So
Yeah. I mean,
it's
it's
possible.
really,
We got both
we're
sides.
really, yeah, we're really taking on a tough task because it's like, with sentiment or all of these things. Like a guy tried to argue with me the other day on a YouTube channel comment, which is not a good place to get into an argument. But he tried to tell me that because basically he said that his whole Twitter timeline is euphoric right now, and I'm like, okay, because you're seeing bullish people within Twitter circles about crypto, like, yeah, those are the psychos. Like, those are us. Those are people who like had not, Retail's not in this market right now. They're nowhere near this market.
Mm-mm.
They won't be around it at minimum until late 2023, most
Right.
likely 2024. So I mean, yeah, you can see that, and that's probably what you're seeing too, Ewok. And I'm not saying you're wrong necessarily, but like the positive sentiment we are seeing from people are from like crypto lifers. It's not really going to be people that are like new to this market or anything like that. So yeah, maybe some of those people can be acting euphoric and, oh yeah, bear market's over and everything, but like they were here the whole bear market. So of course they're going to feel a little euphoric.
Right.
It's not euphoria like Tom Brady, Matt Damon commercials. It's euphoria like, Jesus Christ, finally the
Finally,
market's going.
just some green candles for a change.
Yeah.
It doesn't take much to get people excited at this point. And that's why I still feel like we haven't seen Max Payne. Something tells me that we haven't, and I don't know. I think this whole anger phase could go a little bit longer into the depression.
Well, I will say that I feel fortunate that my bags are packed and I'm prepared for liftoff. I
Sure.
basically,
Hey, listen, if we think the worst and the best happens, then it'll be even better. And if we do get to, if we do get out of it, then we could be like, wow, that depression phase wasn't really too bad.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. That's a great point. And yeah, you do have to, well, first off, you have to prepare for all outcomes. I mean, like you think one way, I think the other way. We've both shown, even though we're confident in our opinions, neither one of us are 100% no wiggle room. I have no plan for the alternative. I mean, you just said right there that that you feel like your thesis would kind of be invalidated if we break 25 and a half K steadily and start closing there. There again are big time accounts on Twitter, traders that it's I said this last week, but it's like, I want to be correct on Twitter. I don't want to like benefit from this market. That seems to be, that's the danger of just getting married to anything. You get so dug in that it's like, this is just my identity now. You know what I mean? And I'm being careful myself to not do that to a bullish end here, because it is still like the minority opinion and stuff. But, we were talking about it on Twitter, you and me, the other day. I mean, like, I will be here for the ride either way. I mean, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah.
So neither one of us are going anywhere. And the problem is sometimes, I have friends that are saying, hey, what should I do? What should I do? Well, it's your money. And if you feel
Right.
that it's starting to get away from you, then you should probably invest some. If I wouldn't invest a whole bunch right now just because I think it's going lower, but I've already got bags packed. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I'm in a different boat from people that are just now getting in. And I would hate to see them get left behind. And, we don't have a crystal ball, so I don't know what is really going to happen. But, you've got a plan. And that's the idea of dollar cost averaging in when some candles go red. They're always good opportunities, especially if you have that long-term mindset. It's if you've got a couple years to wait, then there really is no bad entry at this point. Everything's down as it is, not going to hurt you.
Yeah. I had a great opportunity to do that over the last 24 hours. We did have a pretty good dip. And I tell you what, yes, I'm in this bull mindset now suddenly. But when that stuff happened, I watched everything and I knew there was some decent support for ETH at like 1500, 1550. I was like, well, let's watch this area. And then sure enough, today we just never go below it. And all of a sudden we start pumping again. There's just little signs like that I hear where you're coming from. And there certainly could be manipulation and stuff like that from some people, but just looking at charts, like cold-blooded kind of just looking at charts and seeing how it's reacting. I'm just like, damn, it's, I was waiting for like a 20K pullback or like 20 and a half or something after what happened yesterday. And again, I'm not saying the move is over, but man, to see it like steadily into the 23Ks again, it's just is strong looking price action that we haven't really seen for a long time,
Yep.
So yeah.
Who's to say?
Yeah.
Make it interesting.
We shall see. Yeah, but hey, the moral of the story is to keep an open mind for sure. I mean, you don't want to get, like we said, too dug in either way. But
Right.
that's kind of a look at the market. I really don't want to talk about Genesis, even though we had it on here. I really just had the point that, they filed for bankruptcy last week. And, I was really just saying, in terms of my kind of bullish sentiment here, I don't know why my camera keeps doing this, that basically nobody really reacted to it. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, it wasn't really. It was like,
Well, I
okay,
don't think after everything that's happened, I don't think anybody's really shocked about anything anymore.
that's kind of my point. Yeah. I mean, like,
Yeah.
there could still be other selling and stuff like that. Plus, I think we all kind of knew about the Genesis thing anyway. So them officially filing for bankruptcy was like, oh, wow. Okay. I mean, do you
So
have
I
any?
believe it is Chapter 11 that they filed for, and
I think
Chapter
so.
11 is a reorganizing bankruptcy. So it allows them to get things in order. They're allowed to restructure. Um, Chapter 7 is when you basically have to sell everything.
Mm,
So a Chapter 11 again doesn't really affect the markets too much because they're restructuring their internal workings of things, trying to get everybody back in line, doing what they can to make them whole. Um, I don't think they'll be selling off. So again, we're running into that situation where there's still nothing that is triggering a massive sell-off. Not
right.
yet, anyway.
Yep. Yeah, we'll see. I don't know what other major players are left to fall, but we're kind of at the point, I think, where if there are anybody who's been any of these major entities that have been spending their money wisely over the last year or two, that'll become evident here as well. Basically, by the fact that they're still active, even. So,
Yeah.
um, I want to get into the Fed stuff next week. We're going to, we've been able to dodge this topic for a little while because it's been a bit since their last meeting, which I think was mid-December. And now next week, Tuesday and Wednesday, January the 31st and February the 1st, which will be perfect timing for us since we have a show next Wednesday, February the 1st. The Fed, the FOMC meeting will be taking place. We will be finding out on the 1st of February what the next rate hike is. I don't even want to use the word presumably. I mean, it's almost assuredly they're not pivoting at this point. We're still going to see a rate hike of some sort. I think people seem to be kind of torn between a quarter of a basis point or a half. We had a half the last time around in December, which was the first time that they lowered it from that 75 basis point route, showing that they are slowing. But the last time Powell talked about 6 weeks ago, he did say that basically it looked like what they're going to do is they were still interested in hiking rates in smaller increments, but for longer. So we wouldn't be
Right.
getting slapped up front. And I think this kind of just gave them flexibility to, give them more time to make decisions and things like that. So we have this one next Wednesday. And then I believe the next one is mid-March. I should have already had these pulled up, and I'll pull them up here in the meantime. So first off, Ewok, what do you think we've got here next week? Do you think they keep the pedal on the metal for with a half basis point, or do you think they start to dial it back and go with a quarter? And what do you think they come out sounding like?
No, I'm thinking we continue at 50, 50 basis points for now. Uh, we'll see how that has any kind of reaction on the markets, if any.
Right. Yeah.
We've kind of noticed that they're all baked in, a week or so before it really happens, and depending on how much different it is from what people think it or thought it was going to be, then you kind of see the adjustment after that. So I think it's going to stay at 50 points. I don't see much action different in the market. Um, we'll see it in the days leading up to it probably, but yeah, I don't see anything different from what we've been doing anyway.
I don't too much either. I think 50 is probably priced in, if not for the simple fact that they just went to that in December, and it would make sense to do maybe one more at that rate. I do think if we only get a quarter, there is a chance we could pump, though. I think
But
that to me would signify like we are about to pivot, like we're about
yeah,
to back off of this. So the possibility is out there. I tend to side with you. I think we'll probably get another half, and then we'll see a pivot. So the next meeting after that would be about another 6 weeks. It'll be
right.
March the 21st and 22nd. So we have some good chunks of time in between these things to really see if they decide to go another direction. And don't forget this as well. I said this a couple of weeks ago, even though I'm not well schooled in it and keep forgetting how they calculate it. But essentially, the next CPI readings that we're getting is going to be the new calculation they do where different data is factored in. Essentially, the moral of the story is the number is going to look better because they're just pulling different data. So whatever that means, whether whether it's the Fed just kind of fudging things to make themselves look better, if the majority of the big dumb masses think that it's good, then it's going to be good. It's just the way it'll be. So, I think there's multiple bullish things. But, everybody keeps talking about macro. And yes, I agree. Like there are big real world things that are happening because of the U.S. economy and all these rate hikes. But it kind of just seems like as far as markets, people don't care right now that much. So we'll see. I mean, I wouldn't be buying a house right now, but I would be buying crypto. So,
right.
Yeah. So what do you think? Let me ask you that. Like, if they did just do a quarter of a point, what do you think we would see? Because I'm just not seeing a lot more macro things for people to, get all that scared.
Well, I think it could be definitely bullish for the rest of the markets, only because everyone's predicting, the 50 points. If it's lower, that means a pivot is closer. Could be very bullish for everything. And Bitcoin has been holding pretty close to the S&P and the other markets out there. So it could be very bullish after that. We'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, and speaking of Valentine's Day, February the 14th is when we will get that next CPI rating that should have that new calculation. So stay tuned for that a couple of weeks after this next FOMC. But it's going to be an interesting one. At least we aren't at the point like last, summer and into the fall where we were hanging on by a thread to see what Jerome Powell was going to say. It's not quite that tied to it anymore. But again, I think people have PTSD from this bear market and just think that everything is going to be terrible. So we'll see how the market reacts. But going to be an interesting one next week. So I want to shift our attention to what did
Andrew? He's talking about your YouTube short with your.
Yeah. There you go. Hey, you got to you got to upload bloopers every now and then.
That's right.
To show people you're really working out here. So let's shift our attention to actual crypto, DeFi, and I want to start out with a little bit of a funny topic with this first because it's been making its rounds in terms of hex spaces and stuff like that. And a lot of people have been. It's become a meme at this point, and it's interesting because in a day after it really started to become a meme, we actually got a legit Pulse Chain update in detail from Richard Hart, I guess primarily, or from one of the devs anyway, like one of the actual devs, I believe through Telegram. But Ewok, what do you make about this little meme going around? A dev told me meme where everybody has some secret circle in the dev community where they have this information around Pulse Chain, and some of the Pulse Chain cheerleaders, I guess, for lack of a better term, on Twitter. What do you make of the meme? Because I think I saw some pretty funny stuff over the last couple of days.
Well, I get a kick out of it too. I think it's good that people are at least using humor. And some of the recipients of those have been pretty good sports about it as well. I know Katie is in one of the dev chat private chats, and she's kind of affiliated through Power City with some of the other devs. So she actually does get some updates, and then you get other people piling on, and then we see Richard's update, which, was even better. There's actual things happening that kind of validated what she was saying. So, again, I'm glad people are using humor. And to make light of the fact that we've been, going on 2 years now waiting for Pulse Chain. So, I mean, I think it's funny. My mother's brothers, sisters, cousins, aunts, uncles is dev, and they told me 3 hours. So,
right. I've talked before about just I just want to know when it's out. Like I get sick of the constant update. I just don't want to pay attention to them because to me, the awesome thing about this crypto bear market at large is like there's way more going on than there used to be. As you can attest to, Ewok, like back in 2018, 2019 and stuff like that, there was nowhere near as many
Oh
things to
no,
get involved with and do.
not in the bear market. No, I mean
Right.
people left. People ran. Well, a lot of people were broke, or the ones that weren't broke were hiding
Right.
because they were evading the police. So
Right.
yeah, it's a definite different scenario this time around. There are people building, there are people preparing. It's a very positive thing to see all these things that are getting ready for Pulse Chain. So pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, there's other stuff going on to get involved with, which is awesome. We didn't have this kind of DeFi stuff going on, in 2018, 2019. So there's just a lot more you can do. I mean, I'm not necessarily into this, but I mean, real crypto people every single day can be transacting constantly and making money in some form,
Right.
in DeFi right now.
Well,
Whether
and
that's
that's another thing. That stuff didn't exist, right?
Mhm.
The last cycle, your real true DeFi that isn't affected by the market cycle, other than price, obviously. But the real DeFi that will continue to run and can't be turned off, that wasn't there. So sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but
No, I just mean like whether it's like liquidity providing and even just staking, like staking through DeFi and things like that. Obviously, people are minting Zen. There's all kinds of crazy stuff going on where
Mhm.
people have been profiting in one way or another in many different ways in this bear market. So it is a very cool thing, and I think that people, man, I mean, we've beat on this drum a million times, but why not do it again? But with the Pulse Chain thing, okay, with the Pulse Chain not being out yet, a lot of people sacrificed for Pulse Chain. A lot of people sacrificed for Pulse X. Remember what sacrifice meant. You may never see that money again. You have to remember that. Okay. Like that's the whole purpose of it being a sacrifice. That's why Richard set it up that way. Okay. I don't know what you're expecting out of this at this point. You sacrificed for a reason. And, if you want tokens that have no value to be presented to you eventually, well, you need to get into a venture capitalist mindset. A lot of these guys that do that kind of thing, first off, they don't over leverage themselves and put a shit ton of money in that they can't afford to lose like all these people did. But they also understand that there's a time horizon here and
Yeah.
it's a couple of years. And we now are at the point where Pulse Chain, like you just said, Ewok, is approaching that like couple of year time frame. If you are somebody, because way more people sacrifice for Pulse X than for Pulse Chain, simply because I think of time. But
Sure.
at this point, if you sacrifice just for Pulse Chain, it's only been a little over a year. Or excuse me, Pulse X. It's only
Pulse
been a
X.
little over a year. Yeah. So, I mean, if you think you're
Chill
going to get
out.
like exactly, if you think you're going to get 1,000X or 10,000X or something like that out of these free airdrops you're going to get, wait 5 years. Like, what are you so upset about right now? Find something else to do. I'm telling you, like, you can't be concentrating on that. And that's why I know some like it. I know you do, Ewok. I know a lot of the Hex people do. I don't care about like all the updates. I don't understand the dev speak anyway. I'm not going to like sit there by a thread. Dude, we were sitting here 1 calendar year ago thinking it was going to be out for a month from now. Like,
Mhm.
seriously. I mean, I know people
Yep.
forget that, but like a whole bunch of people thought this thing would be out in February of 2022. Like, I'm not worried about it. Like, it'll be out when it's
Yeah.
out. I enjoy the updates when they come from Richard, but uh, there's other
Yeah.
stuff to do right now. So
Well,
give me some of your
you
perspective.
brought up a good point there with the um shit. I totally lost my train of thought. Um
The sacrifice idea.
well, the sacrifice, yes, but the VC money.
Mm,
So when VCs get into projects, they usually have about a 4-year time frame, actually, because it takes them about 2 years to do
right.
the code. And then once it releases, they're actually locked, most of them, for 2 more years. They don't want them dumping on the heads of everybody that's trying to get in, get it established. So they usually have about a 4-year commitment. So
Right.
that was an excellent point, that you made, that if people had that mindset, we wouldn't have seen as much dumping and pissed off people, I think. or over leveraged. If there was a little disclaimer on it that said, you're basically, when you sacrifice this money, you're not only doing it for freedom of speech and freedom of movement, but you're also looking at probably a 3 to 4 year timetable. Now, I didn't think they thought it would take that long. However, um, he did know software was hard. So then you get into that whole expectation of profit from the work of others, right? So you kind of have to be really careful what you say, no matter how you say it. Whether you put a time limit on it, then people are working for your benefit.
Right.
It's a very fine line that you have to walk, I think, in order to be within the laws and also keep people happy that are expecting something when they really shouldn't.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. And I think it's just a fact. I've talked about this before too in relation to Hex and really, all of crypto. It's not just Hex, but you got to remember that there are a lot of young people here that are either young in like years of life, but also young in years of investing. And they don't understand concepts like that. And, maybe they already have had wild success and stuff like that in crypto and think that everything's going to go exactly the same way on a time that they demand, and it's just not going to be like that. So,
right.
I hate to be the cliche boy, but I mean, good things come to those who wait. Find something else to do to be productive. I think that's just what you've got to do in these kind of instances. And
one cool thing I did see earlier today, Hexologist stream, he was doing the Chat GPT, and he copied the update from Richard and said, "Now explain this to me like a 5-year-old." So
nice.
That was pretty cool. So if you didn't see that, you should probably check out his stream too. And
I will definitely check that out.
The Chat GPT thing is pretty awesome. All the things you can do. I don't know if you've played around with it too much. I went to log in once or twice and it said the server was full. So I don't know if you have to create a login or pay for it. I think it is paid now. The people that actually pay for it can log in and use it at any time. So I know it started out as a free version, and I think they've probably done away with that now, but it's pretty neat.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. I mean, it'll totally take us off the air, and we won't be needed anymore because you just say, "Hey, tell me about crypto," and the broke boy crypto voice, and bam, there you go. So
there you go.
But I want to ask you a little bit, not that not insulting you, Ewok, but not that you necessarily were able to decipher every single thing in the Pulse Chain updates, as it was mainly dev speak. But you hit me up first on Twitter last night, and then I saw everybody I know that likes Hex tweeting about it last night. But the actual Pulse Chain update that came through that Telegram group, and then Richard tweeted it himself pretty much verbatim. And then he even expanded on it a little bit and kind of said it in his own words to a degree, and broke it down. So yeah, give me a synopsis of this whole thing since you pay more attention to it than I do. And what do you make of it and what are your thoughts on
it? Well, long and short, the chain is syncing. It is downloading. It's gotta download the entire chain before it can go live. Then once it does, it uses other systems to maintain the state. So when somebody else were to go in and download it, there are much faster ways. What's the program that the Pirate, it used to be on Pirate Bay. It's I forget what it's even called. I wasn't really. You know what I'm talking about?
I've never used the Pirate Bay, so I have no idea what you're talking about.
Anyway, you're right. So it's the system that all the computers share a little bit. It's almost like Napster and BearShare and all those things were in modern day. So everybody stores a little bit on their computer so that there's not one centralized location storing the data. So you could really never turn it off. I forget what it's called, but either way. But anyway, the chain is syncing for V3. They've got all kind of redundancies built into there. There's other systems that are running. Again, I'm not a dev. I just kind of read and listen to what other people are saying.
I bet you wish you were a dev right now.
Well, I do. I do. I could have probably jumped on the team and helped them out a little bit, right?
Not only that, but look at all these chicks you'd have falling all over you.
Oh,
Right?
I know.
Chicks and guys, a
chicks
lot more guys.
asking me for information on updates. I know, it'd be
Right.
crazy.
Yeah.
That one was a carload of 14-year-olds, though. It was a little scary.
Real, thankfully. Yeah, that was
there. It is. BitTorrent. That's the thank you, Pulse Hope.
Oh, okay. Good stuff.
Yeah, that's I was drawing a blank. So
yeah.
But yeah, no, it's positive. And I think the last time that they did the sync or downloaded the whole chain, I think it took 5 or 6 days, maybe 7, to sync up. So it could really take that long until when they started it yesterday or the day before. So we're 2 days in. We probably have four days at least left.
Right.
I think it's a full 2 terabytes of information. Is what I remember Richard saying. Something about the size of it would be about 2 terabytes. So yeah, it's a long download, long process. Once they get that running up and running and up to date, then they can probably start banging on it and see if everything took like it was supposed to, all the updates that they've introduced. And then I could see a release probably within, a week, maybe after the chain syncs for them to take time to make sure. Now, obviously, if they find problems, it won't. That's in a perfect scenario that if everything gets downloaded and taken care of, all the updates are successful, then I could see it probably a week after that. If they find bugs or problems, then, more delays.
Right. Now put this into perspective for me. I mean, how much are you caring or worrying about V3 being out? I mean, like, because, I really am just waiting for the real thing. We've had multiple test nets at this point. It'll be cool that it is. To me, though, all that, I mean, yeah, I guess it's good no matter what that there's development being done. It's better than not knowing anything at all. But I guess to me, it's like short-term price action. I'm excited about it. I mean, like, call me crazy, but that's right.
You do have the short-term price action, but I'm excited to get in there and play around. I want to get in there, try things out, know what's going on, so that the second it goes live, I'm not fumbling and hitting wrong buttons. I know exactly where I want to go if I want to place liquidity. I know exactly where I want to go if I want to do one-sided staking on PulseX. If I want to allocate to a validator or whatever to stake towards a validator, that's another problem too that ETH has right now is they still haven't released the Shanghai update that allows people to unstake their locked hex that are with the validators right now. So we're kind of still waiting for that too. I know at one point the number was 32 ETH for Ethereum to be considered a validator. Richard had said at one point that you had to have 32 million pulse to be a validator. Now, at the prices that they were at that point, it's really not that much money. So I don't know if that number will change as far as that goes, but the Shanghai update that was coming out on ETH 2.0 was the update that would allow them to unlock their coins that are currently locked up in the validators. So, we still don't have that. And I don't think, unless they've fixed it on their own, I don't think that's going to be a part of Pulse Chain until it's released by Ethereum developers. So
right.
That's another thing. But I'm excited. I want the price action. I also want to go in there and play around. Like I said, I want to know what I'm doing on day one when it happens, so that I don't make stupid mistakes with real things.
Exactly. Yeah. There's a lot of I mean, even outside of the Pulse Chain ecosystem, I mean, there's a lot of bullish things happening in DeFi this year. We have that update to Uniswap is what, April, like at the end of April or something.
End of April, beginning of May. Yeah. And that will open up the open source on V3.
Right.
And V3 allows the one-sided liquidity. So basically you can set a limit order without really setting a limit order,
Hmm.
So
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be a good year for all things DeFi. I think sorry, we talked about it last week. Yeah, I think I think a main catalyst for going into the next bull run will be partially DeFi 2.0. I mean, like there were so many terrible things in 2022 that were everything but DeFi that
right.
I think it makes a hell of a comeback, and there's a lot of people doing their part. So we'll keep our eyes peeled for all of those things. Um, Getting ready to wrap up here, I wanted to discuss this for a minute. So if you are somebody who can't take this programming, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and tune out. But Jack Levin has announced that he is launching a new L1 for Zen, I guess, just based on really from everything I've heard him say, it's just because the community is asking for it. I mean, that's it. I don't know. Um, it's one of those things where, like, I guess as somebody who like minted a lot of Zen, I'm intrigued that they're doing it. But just to give you, we're talking about an L1 with Pulse Chain right here. But just to give you, for everybody that is starting to get upset with the timing of Pulse Chain because of their sacrifice and everything, Jack has already said with this idea, which granted they just came up with a couple of weeks ago and are working on right now, that he's thinking like Q1 of 2024 for a release for it. So I mean, it's like, I think people have to remember, and that's not copying the entire Ethereum system state either or anything like that. So
Right.
I think people do have to remember that. There's a ton of things obviously going on with Zen. If that's something you're interested in, definitely pursue it. I'll be making content about it here and there on my channel. But what I am interested in, even more so, like the bigger conversation here is like I feel like, and I don't know if you do, Ewok, but like the last bull market, I feel like was really the bull market for layer ones. I mean, like there were so many new layer ones. Like obviously the main catalyst was Solana. We know a hell of a lot more about that chain now. Number one is that it doesn't work very often, and number two is that the one of the main headers of it is maybe going to jail for a long,
Yeah.
long time. So there's that. I have no real interest in Solana, even though if you wanted to trade it. Yeah, I think you're going to probably ride it up.
Yeah.
I think I think you'll probably ride it up a decent bit at this point. Phantom is probably the 1A-ish other L1 to Solana. It's obviously much lower in market cap. And then you've had some others that are now saying that basically that they're defining themselves as L2s, like Polygon Matic and things like that, which I think is probably a good approach for them. But I'm just wondering, and the reason I use Jack creating this X1 chain for Zen, which again, I think I'm not comparing X1 to Pulse Chain, so people don't flip out or anything here. I'm just saying that I think X1 for him for Zen is kind of like he's doing it for Zen users, kind of like how Pulse Chain was, mainly about Hex users, but obviously all other things will be built on it as well. But I guess what I'm wondering, and I wrote down something about Aptos on here too, which is we already mentioned flying up today, which is another VC backed, big time VC backed L1 that launched during this bear market. How many L1s do we need? Like, I'm just wondering, obviously Ethereum is busy and, it's going to get untenable when we get back to the bull market again. I mean, we've already seen spikes now in Gwei that people, speaking of Zen, have quitted minting it as much.
Well, we can blame a lot of that on the Zen because of the transactions. I mean, you look at Etherscan and you see what's eating up a lot of the Gwei. And, it's not just Zen. There's like 5 or 6 different protocols that are kind of tied into Zen. You got the Zen FTs and you got the other things.
Tool.
There's the batch tool. And so, I mean, if anything, I hate it because, we should be very cheap prices right now, but we're not. It's one of the things. But to your question, do we need more layer ones? Well, apparently we do. If the prices are still that high, So
I just wonder, I guess there's 2 questions for me. It's like, do we need more layer ones as opposed to layer twos that are built on top of Ethereum? Like we have Optimism, which is another one that was launched in this bear market that is also doing really well price-wise today. Arbitrum is another layer 2 that has a token not quite out yet that I know tons and tons of people are excited about. I guess like my other question not only is like, do we need more, but also is that the fad to be investing in? Because, I know we're all in it for the tech primarily, but
Oh
sometimes I
yeah,
do like to make money too.
yeah,
I know you're kind of that way too, Ewok, but like,
yeah. I'm here for the money.
yeah, okay, there you go. You're unashamed. But like with, our L1's going to be the narrative this time around. I watch one of my favorite YouTube channels right now and follows on Twitter is my friend Somi. It's SOMMI. He's in Australia. Just real straight shooter. I love his take on the markets. Really funny guy.
I
Tweets
thought
a
you were
lot
going to
about
say
X.
Crypto 7 was your top viewer.
Other than Crypto 7, yeah.
Oh,
Other than
okay.
Crypto 7, yeah.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I love his channel. He's a real straight shooter and
Yeah.
talks a lot about the markets, but he talks a lot about like what's the new narrative going to be this
Yep.
time around, because it's not going to be L1s again, and we can't know. Like as we sit here right now, we can speculate and maybe we'll be right as to what it is. And we know what horses to put our chips on and where to bet. I mean, you and I, of course, are both, obviously we think that DeFi is still going to be a big thing going forward.
Absolutely.
But what's, I wonder what the big thing could be. Like, what's the narrative that could crop up between now and maybe midway through 2024 that really gets people excited? We had NFTs the last time around, which were a fun game to ride up if you wanted to at the time. I'm just wondering what that thing could be. Is it going to be more advanced GameFi? The only things I can really think of are basically just enhancements of what we kind of already know. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's
what
going
are
to be
your thoughts?
exciting. It's going to be exciting to watch. I mean, the thing with layer twos, and I remember with Polygon, even in the last bull market, is it was very expensive to get in and out. Yeah,
Mhm.
you could go over there and transact and do a lot of things, but you still had to get back out to have the value. So I really think things that are going to be cross chain
Uh-huh.
are going to be hot. Things that can go in and out of the different chains smoothly and safely are really what's going to be hot. There is a lot of excitement about GameFi as well. I don't know how far that'll take off, yet to be seen. I know there's a lot of high speculation on some of those tokens as well. Um,
Right.
but I'm excited for cross chain stuff that can do it seamlessly and safely. So that's what I'm looking forward to. Is if you can go on and off of a chain, complete very similar things, and go from there. Hopefully, it kind of integrates a lot of things all into one. So you don't have to go over here to do something. If you can do
Right.
it on cross chain and still get it done. um, I don't know if that's even possible, but I think it'll be exciting to see.
Yeah, well, in terms of like interoperability like that, I mean, Polkadot obviously has been one that's worked on
Mhm.
that. Atom, Cosmos, Chainlink, which has been around now for a little while as well. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, there's a lot of things interworking that are still doing a lot. That's even probably way above our heads at this point. What the development actually is. So yeah,
yeah,
maybe those could be plays too. And I mean, I know those are all tokens that are going into their second cycle. They're not necessarily new. And that's
right.
why you're seeing on, like I mentioned, Aptos and Optimism today. They are both extremely high up as the market is running right now because they were launched in a bear market. They're at their all-time highs as we sit here right now. So,
Yep,
yeah,
yep.
it's like predicting the narrative, also knowing which one to run with. I mean, everybody, like I just right now, as I was on Twitter, I just saw a nice top signal for this recent run on Aptos because I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce his name, but huge YouTube channel from Crypto Banter, Ran Nooner or
Mhm.
Ron. Yeah. He was just tweeting about Aptos. Aptos is definitely the premier L1 behind Ethereum. The market is saying it. And it's like, well,
So,
yeah, I mean, yeah, I literally, I commented on it, exit trade. Yeah, exactly. But it's
you
just
know,
like,
and
yeah,
then we
there's a
can't
lot of
forget
things.
about Paul. We're going to have
Well, they're never going to talk about it, but yeah, right.
very, very cheap. Well, actually, I'm not sure. I think you're
For
going to
now,
see a lot more influencers talking about Pulse Chain once it launches, because I really think a lot of them were sacrificers themselves. So
right?
that's going to be exciting to go over there and play around with all the new toys and see how a system state copy actually works. see how many other communities come over and play with their new toys over there that were, essentially an airdrop. So
Mhm.
that's going to be exciting. We talk about cross chain and all this other stuff, but for me, I think Pulse Chain is going to be fun, and not to mention
Yeah.
all the new protocols that are just waiting to launch. You've got the clones of a lot of other things. People are finally going to be able to short hex. Should be interesting how that
Right.
plays out.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I hope they do and lose their ass. So
They likely will. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. I think you are right. I think when Pulse Chain is actually out, um, yeah, it'll be interesting to see the sentiment or when people actually start speaking about it. It's one thing right now when the token hasn't actually launched yet.
yeah,
That said, though, like Arbitrum, every single huge influencer has already been talking about that for months, and there's no token yet. So,
mhm,
yeah, it's all about where the money is and stuff like that, and who they're being paid by and everything, obviously. So,
right, right,
um, yeah. Well, we will be here either way to see what the
yep,
big narrative is next. It's going to be fun. To sum up this program, and going back to the beginning of what we talked about tonight, regardless of whether you think the bottom is in or not, this is the year. Like this, that's one thing I know you and I agree on, Ewok. Like throughout 2023, if you haven't accumulated or if you are so good to be new to this market right now, boy, do you have a leg up on so many people. Like if you are watching this stream or any, thoughtful crypto streams right now at this moment, you are going to win because you are here at the bottom of the market still.
yep,
There are we are at a point right now where you could like throw a dart and win. I mean, if you're starting out at this moment, like I'm sitting here underwater. Ewok at the moment is underwater. Now, you watching, you'll probably be underwater at some point too, but further down the road. But if you're starting out right now, you could throw a dart at anything and win. I wouldn't do that. I would actually educate yourself and do some research. But man,
yep,
this is a good time to be here. I mean, you're
for sure.
going to see stuff run. So,
Well, and honestly, being my second cycle, I'm not underwater. I'm
well, yeah,
down considerably. I'm
right,
still way ahead. So
right,
just knowing that, you know, for people that are in their second cycle, sometimes doing nothing is the best thing you can do.
hmm
Um, for people just getting in, this is the time that you need to be making the moves, getting in position so that you're ready when the bull market hits. For those who have stepped away and aren't touching anything right now, that were doing very well at the end of the last bull market, well, then that's probably the right choice for them. They're not going to mess up by giving up their seed phrase accidentally or signing into the wrong contract
yeah,
or doing anything stupid that could happen that could really wreck you as well. So again, there are people that doing nothing is better. Um, but if you're new to the market, this is now is when you want to be doing taking action and getting in the position so that you're in the same position we are on the second market. So
yeah. Yep. Yeah, it's going to be a great year. I know, I'm now the eternal optimist, which for anybody who knows me in real life would think that's pretty funny. You Ewok, you Ewok are not. You're the pessimist short term. So, I mean, we're both real, really. I mean, we're just looking at what we think the market will do. But
yeah,
regardless, do your own research and, just don't leave. I mean, like the reason that the market pumping and some optimism around the corner here is because we didn't leave. There are a lot of dark days for both of us and anybody who's been in crypto for, man, I'd say 6 months or more.
yep,
So
yep,
um,
exactly.
yeah, so
and
greener
and things
pastures.
are getting exciting. Exactly, greener pastures are ahead. Our channel here is growing. I'm seeing
Mhm.
23 people viewing now. If you're in here, smash the like. Stop over to both channels. Give us a sub if you haven't, and follow us along the way. You don't even have to watch us every week. Throw a subscription down and catch us when you can. So we
Yeah,
appreciate it. Things are growing. Things are, that momentum you can see is shifting. Hell, you got a shout out by Trevon the other day. So
one of my
things
idols.
are. Yeah, well, hey, I've always liked Trevon. I think he's a
Yeah, I do.
smart guy. He's a definitely a thinker.
Mhm.
I may not agree with all the things that he gets into, but he is a critical thinker, and he times a lot of things. He may buy something and then tell all his audience that he bought it, and then they buy it, and he may dump it. That whatever. But I've always thought Trevon was a character, and I never had a problem with him. I've always liked him, so
He's
I
been
just
here.
thought it was
He's
cool
been
to
here
hear him
longer than
talk.
anybody.
Yeah,
You
he
know.
has. He's been here since 2015, I think. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, it was good to hear him mention you. So that was pretty cool.
It surprised me, man. I was watching the end of he had Jack on the other day, and man, it was like an hour and a half into the stream already, and I was just sitting there watching him, and he said something like, yeah, a channel I've been watching a lot of right now. I mean, I didn't even have any thought he was going to say me, so it was kind of cool. Or maybe he messed up and it wasn't me, and he actually meant to say somebody else. I don't
No, he meant you.
know. But yeah, I appreciate that from Trevon for
Yeah.
sure. But that's going to wrap us up, I think, this week for the podcast and the stream. It's been a good one. We will be back, of course, next Wednesday, February the 1st. We'll have a lot to talk about, of course, because we've got the next FOMC meeting that day. We'll see what kind of rate hike we get and how the markets respond. Again, I'm Broke Boy Crypto. Hey, if you are here right now and you haven't hit the like button yet, smash it. Smash the hell out of that like button. We appreciate it. Hit the sub button. Hit on notifications if you like the channel that much. I very much appreciate it. Ewok, let them know where they can find you too, because you've got a channel as well.
Yep, I'm Crypto Ewok 5555 on YouTube, and you can give me a follow on Twitter at Crypto Ewok.
All righty. Yeah, so we will be back next Tuesday, Wednesday, or yeah, I don't even know what I'm saying right now. Next Wednesday.
How about Wednesday?
Yeah, there we go. Next Wednesday, February the 1st. We will see you then for Crypto Ewok. This has been Broke Boy Crypto on the Creed of Crypto Podcast.